The greatest battle you will ever face is not against the world outside, but against the storm within your own mind. Every thought that passes through you is shaping the reality you live in. The question is, are you in control of that process, or are you merely being controlled by it? Most people spend their lives trying to fix what's happening around them, not realizing that everything outside is a reflection of what's happening inside. When you master the mind, you don't need to control the world. The world begins to align with you. This is the true power of awareness, the discipline of self-control, and the art of surrender. It's not about escaping the chaos, it's about becoming still within it. Because the real strength is not found in conquering others, but in conquering yourself. Awareness is where mastery begins. Before you can shape your mind, you must first learn to see it clearly. Most people are trapped in their own thoughts, unaware that they are being controlled by them. They identify so deeply with every passing emotion that they can no longer tell the difference between what they feel and who they are. Anger rises and they become anger, fear appears and they become fear, but awareness is the first crack in that illusion. It is the moment you step back and realize, I am not my thoughts, I am the one who observes them. This understanding sounds simple, yet it changes everything. The human mind produces thousands of thoughts each day, most of them repetitive, reactive, and unconscious. They pull you toward the past, project you into the future, and rarely allow you to rest in the present. Awareness pulls you out of that storm. It allows you to witness what is happening inside without being swept away. You begin to notice the patterns, the same fears repeating themselves, the same judgments surfacing, the same insecurities whispering their stories. When you observe them long enough, their power starts to fade, because what you can see, you can no longer be dominated by. This is not about suppressing thoughts or pretending emotions do not exist. It is about observing them without judgment, without attachment. When you do that, the energy behind them begins to dissolve. The mind loses its grip, and what replaces it is clarity. A quiet awareness that does not react but understands. In this state, decisions become cleaner, emotions lose their intensity, and your behavior aligns more naturally with your values. Awareness is also an act of courage. It means facing the truth of what you feel, even when it's uncomfortable. It requires honesty to admit that some of your pain is self-created, that some of your limitations are chosen, not imposed. But this honesty is liberating, because once you see it, you can change it. So the next time a wave of emotion rises, do not rush to escape it or fight it. Simply pause, watch, breathe. In that stillness, you reclaim your power, because awareness is not just seeing, it is awakening. And once you awaken, you can never go back to being asleep. Between every event and your reaction, there is a small, invisible gap, and within that gap lies your freedom. Most people live their entire lives without realizing it exists. They move through their days in a constant state of reaction, pulled by emotion, pushed by impulse. Someone criticizes them, and immediately they respond with anger. A plan fails, and instantly frustration takes over. But if you can create space between what happens to you and how you respond, you begin to reclaim authority over your life. That pause, that brief moment of silence before reaction, is not weakness. It is power. It is the space where awareness meets choice. The mind wants to react instantly, to defend, to justify, to protect the fragile sense of self. But the person who learns to pause sees more clearly. They are not ruled by the emotion of the moment, but guided by understanding. They respond from intention, not instinct. In that pause, you can observe your emotional state without being controlled by it. You can see anger rising and choose patience instead. You can feel fear building and still move forward. The pause does not deny emotion, it transforms it. It turns emotion from a master into a messenger. Every time you pause, you train the mind to serve you rather than enslave you. Psychologically, this is how self-regulation is built. The pause interrupts the automatic patterns of the brain, the old habits of reaction that keep you stuck in cycles of stress and regret. Philosophically, it is the essence of wisdom, the ability to act with clarity instead of chaos. You are no longer reacting to life, you are creating it. It may seem small, but this simple practice changes everything. When you pause before speaking, you give yourself the chance to respond with compassion instead of anger. When you pause before making a decision, you act from clarity instead of confusion. And with each pause, you strengthen the bridge between awareness and action, the bridge that leads to true self-control. So, the next time something challenges your peace, don't rush to react. Step back, breathe, let the mind settle. In that silence, the right response will reveal itself, because power doesn't come from reacting faster, it comes from responding wiser. The voice in your head never stops speaking. It comments on everything: what you see, what you do, what others might think of you. It questions, judges, and analyzes. Most people spend their entire lives listening to that voice and mistaking it for who they are. But the truth is, you are not the voice. You are the awareness behind it, the one who hears it. Once you understand this, your relationship with the mind changes completely. The mind loves control. It feeds on attention, constantly demanding to be believed. When you attach yourself to every thought it produces, you become trapped in its stories about fear, doubt, and limitation. But when you learn to step back and watch the mind instead of obeying it, a quiet distance forms. You begin to see the difference between thought and thinker, emotion and observer. This separation is not detachment in the cold sense of the word, it's freedom. You are no longer inside the storm, you are the sky watching it. The practice of detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop over-identifying with what you feel. You can experience sadness without becoming it. You can notice anger without letting it define your behavior. You can hear the voice of fear and still move forward. This ability to witness rather than react is what gives birth to inner peace. The mind may continue to speak, but its words lose their weight. They pass through you like clouds across an open sky. From a psychological view, detachment rewires your emotional responses. It trains your brain to respond from awareness instead of impulse. Philosophically, it reminds you that your thoughts are temporary, while your consciousness is constant. You are not the noise, you are the silence that holds it. Try it the next time your mind becomes loud. Instead of fighting the voice, listen to it as if it belongs to someone else. Observe how quickly it changes, how inconsistent it is, how often it contradicts itself. In that observation, you'll realize the voice has no real authority, only the power you give it. And once you stop believing every word it says, you become free. Because true mastery begins when you stop being the voice in your head and start being the one who hears it. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. This is not just a motivational phrase. It's a fundamental truth of the mind. Whatever you give attention to grows stronger. If you constantly feed your fears, they expand. If you dwell on doubt, it deepens its roots. But when you direct your focus toward clarity, gratitude, and purpose, your inner world begins to change shape. The mind is like a lens. What you choose to focus on determines how you see life itself. Most people don't realize how much of their suffering comes from misplaced attention. They allow distractions, negativity, and other people's opinions to dominate their mental space. The result is exhaustion and emotional chaos. The mind becomes a battlefield filled with endless noise. But focus, when trained, becomes the sword that cuts through this confusion. It brings precision, direction, and stillness. Learning to control focus is not about ignoring problems. It's about choosing what deserves your energy. You cannot stop every thought, but you can decide which ones to feed. The more you give attention to what you value, growth, learning, discipline, the less room there is for the noise of fear and self-doubt. This is the quiet power of selective attention. It transforms your emotional state without external change. From a psychological perspective, your focus shapes your perception. The brain filters information to match your dominant thoughts. If you focus on obstacles, your mind will show you more of them. If you focus on opportunities, they will begin to appear. Philosophically, this principle echoes through every spiritual tradition. What you water grows, what you neglect fades. The same applies to the mind, so start treating your attention like sacred currency. Spend it wisely. Each time you catch yourself consumed by negativity or comparison, gently redirect your focus. Bring it back to the present moment, to your breath, to the next step you can take. Over time, this conscious redirection becomes a habit, a quiet discipline that changes everything. The truth is, you cannot control every event in life, but you can always control what you focus on. And that single choice determines your peace, your strength, and your destiny. Focus is the steering wheel of your mind. Where you turn it, your life will follow. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think it's about restriction, about forcing yourself to do what you don't want to do, but true discipline is an act of love toward yourself. It's the decision to stop being a victim of your impulses and instead become the architect of your life. Without discipline, the mind runs wild, distracted, restless, reactive. But when you bring routine and order into your day, you are quietly training the mind to serve, not to rule. Think of your mind as a muscle. Every time you wake up at the same hour, every time you commit to stillness, every time you finish something you started, you are strengthening that muscle. Routine may seem simple, even ordinary, but within it lies extraordinary power. It creates stability in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance. It reminds the mind who is in charge. In the same way, a sword must be sharpened daily to stay effective. Your awareness must be maintained through consistent practice. Meditation, mindful movement, journaling, or even conscious silence. These are not rituals of control, but of preparation. They anchor you when life becomes uncertain. They allow your inner state to remain steady, no matter how chaotic the external world becomes. Psychologically, routine builds neural patterns that support resilience. The brain begins to associate discipline with safety, not struggle. Philosophically, it represents respect for time, energy, and intention. It's not about living a rigid life. It's about building a structure strong enough to hold your growth. Discipline creates freedom, because when the mind is trained, it no longer pulls you in every direction. You move with purpose, not reaction. The mistake many people make is waiting for motivation to act. But motivation is temporary, discipline is permanent. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline says, it doesn't matter, I do it anyway. And every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you build trust within. You stop depending on inspiration to move. You start relying on integrity. So, build your rituals, protect your structure, do what strengthens your center, because a disciplined mind is not a restricted one, it's a liberated one. And when your inner world is in order, no outer storm can throw you off course. There is a strange paradox about control. The more you try to hold on to everything, the more life seems to slip through your hands. True mastery is not about tightening your grip. It's about learning when to let go. Surrender is not weakness, nor is it giving up. It's the recognition that you cannot control every thought, every outcome, every emotion. What you can control is your relationship to them. And when that relationship becomes peaceful, everything changes. Most people spend their lives fighting against reality. They resist what is, wishing things were different. But resistance creates tension, and tension gives birth to suffering. The mind becomes trapped in a loop, trying to control the uncontrollable, predict the unpredictable, and perfect the imperfect. Yet, when you surrender, when you stop arguing with life, you discover something astonishing. Peace doesn't come from controlling your world. It comes from trusting your place within it. Surrender does not mean passivity. It is an active acceptance of the present moment. It's the wisdom to know when action is needed and when silence is stronger. When you stop forcing life to match your expectations, you free the energy that was once bound by resistance. That energy transforms into clarity, patience, and grace. You begin to flow instead of fight. Psychologically, surrender shifts your attention from control to alignment. It allows the nervous system to calm, the mind to soften. Philosophically, it's the essence of harmony, the dance between effort and ease, doing and being. You realize that control was never the goal, understanding was. You learn that acceptance is not the end of growth, it's the beginning of transformation. When you start living from that space, even challenges feel different. You no longer see them as threats but as teachers. You meet life as it comes, grounded and open, knowing that your peace does not depend on circumstances. You act with purpose, but without attachment to outcome. That is freedom, the kind that cannot be taken from you. So, the next time life refuses to go your way, breathe and release the need to control. Let things unfold. Because sometimes letting go is the highest form of strength. And when you trust life enough to surrender, you finally become unshakable.